Maybe start with the roster move today and Leon Draisaitl and what you thought of him, how close he was, and why the decision was made.
I thought he was really close, and what we told Leon this morning is that he did everything we asked him to do, and I thought he played well on either wing. I think his strength is down the middle. I thought his skating has improved from. I didn't see him a lot last year. I saw him at Kelowna at the end, and I saw him a little bit after he was sent down. I thought his skating and conditioning has improved, and I was quite happy with him. What we told him is, and I don't know how much he heard, but it's, you have to look at the big picture. We have to look at the big picture. You had a good camp. You outplayed some people. There's no question there. Play ramps up. Things change. Dynamics of the game change as games progress into the regular season. We want you, when we call you up, we want you to stay here for good. So you got to work on the 200-foot game. Offensively, you can play in the NHL right now. You got to work on the 200-foot game, the little stuff on the defensive side of the puck. Whether it's at wing or at center, he'll predominantly play center down there. He now has another asset to his game because he can play both sides on the wing. So tried to send him with a good message. He was upset, but I think at the end of the day, he'll realize it was the right move. When that day will be, I'm not sure, but yeah. So that was the thinking behind Leon. Really happy with the progress he made at camp. He was very inquisitive as to a lot of the structure the coaching staff has been putting in, which is good when a young player starts, really diving into the structure. That's good. So it's just a tough decision, and it went through the same process with Darnell, and these are two obviously important parts of our organization, and we want to make sure that that their game is respectively smoothed out, so when they're up here, they're here for good. Well, I think he's just a little further ahead as a professional. He's had the years in the KHL. He's stronger. He is a natural winger. So that was a tough one, but he's a little ahead that way. Like so in a snapshot he might be a little bit ahead. In a photo album he might not be. So that's how. That's my analogy / metaphor for the day. Yeah. Be easy on me.
Salary cap was factored all in that decision, and after the answer to that one, could you dive into the Ference situation?
The salary cap was not. There's obviously, when you have a lot of players with the performance bonuses that we have, there's a point when your bonuses creep in as overage. But we were comfortable. We looked at rosters with and without. There's no real issue there. And Andrew, yeah. What was the question on him?
Well, just basically where you at with him. I mean, we've heard rumors that the C might be coming off, and you just go with A's and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't have anything to report on that. You'll probably hear something from Todd and myself. I don't know whether it's tomorrow or the next day. He's been Andrew Ference, like what I've known from him in Boston. I've seen him here. He's not going to play the same role on the ice as he did last year, and I've had discussions with Andrew, and things happen, like the injuries happen, whatnot. But he's comfortable with that playing role discussion that we've had. So that's what I can report on him.
His playing role defined as seventh defenseman.
No, I wouldn't put any label on it. I would just say that he's in that group for the third pair.
How much of a debate, Peter, was there between having 13 forwards and a 13th forward that's frankly one-dimensional? And
Meaning Leon? Meaning?
No. 13 forwards and 8 defense. We got 8D. You've decided only to keep 13 healthy forwards here right now. Was there a debate about going with the 14 and 7 versus the 13 and 8?
Not really. I feel I'd rather have, if I had my druthers, which I do obviously, I'd rather have the 2 extra D. Just I feel that the D is a more significant position. The other thing is when you talk about Slepyshev and Leon, and is that at some point Jordan will be back. So you don't really want to put these guys in a temporary position And then when Jordan comes back, have to send them down because you want them playing at a line in a role where they'll succeed. So that's not your question, I know, but it was just more along the lines about the Leon decision.
Davidson shown you enough in the minors that he's an NHL player?
Not in the minors, no. What I've seen up here is I feel that he's one of 8.
He would have to clear waivers.
He'd have to clear waivers. I see someone who can skate that has a little physical element to his game. For me, he still has to prove himself to be a full-time NHL player, but I like the grit and the skating that he brings, and I think he's a good complement to our group. Now, he doesn't mean he's a full-time NHL player, but right now he's on the roster.
What was it to send ban on waivers and that? I think it's pretty clear he is a National Hockey League goalie, whether he's a starter or a backup.
I agree with you. It wasn't easy. It was a conversation. I had a meeting with him in the summer, and asked him to focus on a few things, and he did. And I told him that he did everything that we asked him to do. I also told him that we're going to have a competition for the 2 spots, and I thought he played well, and I think I agree with you. I think he's a legitimate NHL backup. That's part of a competition. You got to.
Nobody took him because of his contract.
I just think what happens now, and there's a slew of players on waivers today. Like it's just you go in, the manager, the management group, the coaches. They have a sense of projections on their roster from having spent 20+ days in camp, and they want to see them through unless there's an injury or something. There were no real injuries. I think Ben will be, at the very least, he'll be depth for us, but I think he'll be somewhere else at some point.
What's your feeling though in the minors when you want the Swat to play games because he's one of your best?
It's not ideal. It's not ideal. So we'll have to figure something out there.
I noticed you were sitting with the owner today. How much balls did it take to put $7 million in minor leagues?
Well, it was something that we said to the players at the opening meeting is that if you're in a spot, we're going to make room, and that was something that I had mentioned to Daryl and to Bob as far as this is equity, and this is how I understand there's sometimes when you're constricted by contracts, but this is I felt strongly about it, and it yeah. You right? Sorry, go ahead. You're Ryan. You're asking.
No, I was gonna hit on that same
Okay.
point, so you're fine.
Right.
Thank you.
When you took over, you mentioned how you didn't really know what you had because you hadn't seen a lot of these guys. How much does the preseason give you an insight, or do you still need to see kind of 20 NHL games to really assess what you have?
That's a good question. Like every day at this damn time or the day before you set a roster, everyone thinks your roster's written in stone, and it's not. Yeah, we still have to see play changes, 10-game segments, 20-game segments. We still have to see what we have here. We have, we're going to have injuries. We're going to have different situations. So yeah, I still have to see what we have and see how our guys do against a heavier competition.
And do you balance that as far as maybe your plan on how you think to build a winning team, or to build a winning team based on what you have?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like, you just can't completely revamp a roster. It's just logistically, it's impossible, and practically, I don't think it's the right way to build a team. So you find where you may have a surplus of things, and you may have a deficit of other things, and you look at the chemistry now. It's going to be a little different chemistry with the new bodies and some of the subtractions, the new coaching staff. It's a real fluid process, and this has been a real positive first step, this training camp, and we made some tough decisions, and some decisions that are best for the medium-term and long-term interests of the organization. When those 2 young guys get back up on our team, you're going to see 2 terrific players, and I don't know when it is. I've seen development happen in a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year. But with players of that skill and that talent, and it happens. I can guarantee.
And Peter, in the past, the Oilers would always have their young players playing the draft picks. Obviously, Connor's on the team. Are you at the point now recently? You got to play these guys in the minors.
Well, that's a general statement. Like you do it case by case. I mean, there are times when these players are ready, and you know that the roles that they can bring will be conducive to development. And in my experience with my past team, we had instances where it was the right thing to do, and a lot of it had to do with the surrounding cast. And with both Boston and Ottawa, same thing. I remember Mike Fisher when he was a 19-year-old. So there doesn't rule out that. It's just that it depends case by case on the player, on where the team is, and what the surrounding cast is. So, but I think generally speaking, that's a pretty sound principle.
Peter, just to get back at the draft that was clearly has struggled for a long time, 9 years out of the playoffs. I know it's a short window of your work since you started this job, but starting your first season here on Thursday, are you happy with what you've accomplished so far? Is this team ready to look better than it's looked in the past?
I think a general manager or coach is never happy with what they have. They always want to get better. I feel good as to what we've accomplished, especially with what the coaching staff has implemented on and off the ice, with how some of the players have made some progress in the context of what the structures have been put into place. I still have concerns, and we still have areas where we have to get better. But I feel better about the process and where we are right now.
Connor McDavid, sorry, you've had a chance to look at him now in his first pro camp's done. Have you seen things in him that you didn't expect to see?
Not really. Like I think he's been one of our best players. He still has things to learn. The other night in Vancouver, where the last two games in Vancouver, where the game gets a little heavier, you can see where he's feeling himself out. So that's something where he will get better at. So he makes plays. He always makes plays. So he's fun to watch, and he's receptive to coaching too. So as I said, I think he's been one of our better players, and for an 18-year-old, that's pretty good.
Peter, just to go back to Slepyshev for a second, how far up your depth chart did he move in the last 3 weeks? And I just wonder if you can give us a specific quality or two about him in the preseason that allowed him to do that.
He was actually fairly high up, and I hadn't seen him. I saw him once his draft year, but the reports on his play last year were quite good. And anytime you see a 94 born who's 6'2", 218, and plays a pretty solid brand of pro hockey in the KHL. He had 15 goals or something in the KHL. It's hard to score in that league. My expectations are actually pretty good coming in. He struggled in Penticton. I don't know how many were in Penticton. You could really see him sorting out the size of the rink, and even the physical play. He wasn't ready for kind of the close confines. He's gotten better. Every day he's gotten better. He still gets caught up sometimes in situations, and that's to be understood. But just he's a good player, and I think he's ready to play. Maybe I might be a little optimistic, and he's not necessarily here to stay, but he's made the team right now, and he's a pro. Like, you can tell he's played professional hockey and can adjust and adapt.
Your climate to make trades. I mean, like, you got Ben going to the minors. If you wanted to trade, nobody's making any trades.
Yeah, as I said, at this stage, it's tough. Like, everybody's mindset is like, okay, we've made some plans. Here's the lineup, and let's see how it goes. So, it's just tough right now. You might see a trade or two between now and the start and the roster deadline, which is, I guess, tomorrow. But it's just everyone's kind of in, okay, let's see how things go now, and it's usually the trade talk starts after 10, 15 games.
You discussed how you felt about the roster. What's fair expectation, would you say, in reference to playoffs or how competitive you are?
I just look at it. I'm going to talk about progress, and I'm not someone who's going to. I gave a 20/20 on Connor. I've been lambasted for it, so let's just talk about progress and development, progress and structure. It's the speed of the game, our practices. I really like the progress in practices. So maybe after 10 games, we can talk about that.
Sticking to the 2020 on comment?
I clarified it was 20 and 40, and originally I said 20 goals, 20 assists. So maybe I'll go 20 and 40 assists. How's that?
Do you have any taste for the current waiver wire, or is your roster shut down to adding any?
I would say unlikely, but we'll have a look at it. There's a bunch of players on today. There's a couple that have been on our radar, and earlier on in the camp. But then you see how some of the guys have progressed, and I would say unlikely, but we'll have a look at it.
Peter, what's Todd been like as a coach? And I know you know him, but to see him sort of day to day and in practices, what's he sort of showed you that maybe you didn't know, or is he showing you exactly why the reasons that you want to hire him?
Well, one of the things that we talked about when we were talking before hiring him was his communication skills, and I figured they were good based on what I had heard and what I had seen, but you never know until you're under the same roof. And he spoke well about them. I was really impressed in camp how he integrated the minor league coaching staff, and I thought that really created it started with the development camp, and he said that he wanted to take some ownership in the development camp, and he's carried it forward to the rookie camp and to this camp, and it really helps the synergy. It really helps the consistent messaging, and it's easier said than done because often once there's a division, you can talk until you're blue in the face with the other group. It's just they don't feel like there's been a bond. So I was impressed with that. That was good. I think he really is active on the ice during practice. I think the players like that just because it keeps them on their toes. So, but for the most part, he projects well. He's done a good job. Everything is advertised.
Did you try and trade Nikita?
Did I? I had some discussions with some teams. Yep.
His contract was prohibitive.
They had a chance to take him on waivers. I think with Nikitin is that he'll I felt he wasn't in the top 8, and he'll go down and he'll get his game back. He'll play and he is an NHL defenseman, notwithstanding what everyone's views and perceptions are here. His game isn't quite where it should be, and he'll get that chance in the minors.
Peter, I know the roster's a fluid thing, but to get down to the final 23, how wide a net did you cast, and maybe how much discussion was there with Todd when it comes to, making your final decisions, obviously with you having the final call?
Oh, quite a lot. I mean, I had discussions with our management group, discussions with the coaches, with Todd on a number of different levels, a number of different times. I think it's important to have the coach and his staff involved in the decision. At the end of the day, it's my decision, but I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't get all the information that I needed and their feelings, because the coach is the one who plays the players, and he'll play whoever we give him. It's just that there has to be a level of comfort, and there has to be a reason behind certain players. So that's the type of discussion you have.
I'm sure this hasn't been lost on you, but a lot of players that aren't here now were players that have been brought in by MacT and Housen. Was there any problem with the comfort level of making those moves?
No, Terry. It's when you're, you just have to be blunt in your assessment. And those two guys are professionals, and they know with a new guy coming in, there's going to be changes personnel-wise, and that's as it should be. So they've been good, and we've had frank discussions. They see the snapshot that I see, and they've been fine with it and give their opinion on it, and an opinion that I have to digest and then move forward and make a decision.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.